Hello and welcome back to the Coffin Lounge podcast. I'm your host, VampireKitten. Today, my guest is Christo. Hi, Christo.
Hey,
Hey.
what's up, baby?
Christo is currently at a beach resort in Tulum.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, this is where the Wi-Fi is, baby,
Right?
and the waves and the breeze. So I'm sorry about the background music. You probably get some of that. They just turned it on, but luckily it's a little quiet right now. If they raise the volume, we'll go hide in the bathroom or something.
That's fine. Thank you so much for being here. I know you're kind of in like a crazy location. So I guess let's talk about what you do and how we met and what the whole situation there is. So what is it that you do?
Currently, I am doing the YouTube content creation type thing. That all started in COVID, so we can get back to that story a little bit later. But yeah, we're content creators traveling the world full time, and right now we happen to be in Mexico.
So
And we happens to be my partner, Crystal, and I. Together, Crystal and Christo make Crystal. So we have a YouTube channel called The Crystal Show.
I love it.
Yeah.
You two I crave your videos. There is just something about the two of you being together just causes just the joy in your videos and the fun, and it just feels like you guys are just exploring the world for the first time together, and I love that.
It's amazing. There's even places like this. Crystal's been to Tulum twice, and although I've been to other places throughout Mexico, I've never been to Tulum or Cancun, any of this area.
Right.
And it's almost like she's seeing it for the first time because the way we travel together is so much different than the way we travel individually. We've gone back. I used to live in Ibiza, Spain, and traveling there with her for the first time last summer was like the first time I traveled to Ibiza. It's so nice because even if we've been to one of these places that we independently travel to, it's like experiencing it through new eyes, like children. It's so much fun. And yeah, we're like, we have this third entity. There's like these two individuals. There's Christo and Crystal, and then there's Crystal. It's like this. It's like a child that we're raising. We're like learning lessons together and growing this. It's more than just a relationship. It's like such a beautiful thing, and we get to experience the world like through new eyes constantly by being together. Yeah, it's magic. It's magic.
I sort of feel like that translates really well through your videos. That's why
Does
I get
it?
so excited. Yeah, it does. It definitely does. Like the
Good.
third entity, you can tell like you are exploring together, and that's really cool.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Thanks for saying that. That means a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I crave your videos. They give me just a sploosh of dopamine and serotonin whenever I see them. I'm just like, oh my gosh, these are perfect. This is what I needed today.
I like that word, sploosh. Yeah.
Sploosh.
From now on, I just want to welcome to the Crystal Show. We're here to give you a sploosh of serotonin. I like that.
Oh, perfect. New tagline.
Yeah. Sploosh
So-
it, baby. We're here to sploosh it.
So, let's backtrack. Let's go back to the beginning. Where I don't even know how to get back to the beginning because there's so many beginnings.
There's so many beginnings. How about Burning Man?
Let's talk
When
about
we
Burning
met.
Man. Yeah, we met at Burning Man.
Remember that?
I don't even
We did.
remember which burn it was. What burn was it?
2016 or 17, 20. I think 2016 was my first.
Was it
year.
Cargo Cult? I don't
No,
even remember.
lip balm. Lip balm.
Lip Balm. 2016. You're right. It was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. That was Da Vinci.
Da Vinci.
I think it was
you
Da
were
Vinci.
an officer. I think you were an officer at the camp. It was my first year. I went with Bike, very, very close friend of mine, Noise Suppressor, is the DJ name. And
Right.
he and I went, and it was like, I had very little idea what Burning Man was. My dad actually, for years leading up to that, would always show me photos of this thing that happened called Burning Man. It was crazy art and these crazy dusty people, and I
So
didn't know anything more than that.
I know your dad. Did your dad bring you to Burn?
No, the first year, Bike brought me
Okay.
to Burn. He's like, hey, I've been to this crazy thing last year.
You
You're
have
the
to go.
perfect person to go with. You're coming with me this year. So we went in 2016 together, and I loved it so much. I'm like, my dad was so right about everything going on here. My dad has to come. So then the next year, I drugged my dad out to Burning Man to introduce him to the thing he
Yeah.
introduced me to in a
I
weird
remember
way.
that.
And Yeah, it was interesting and special experience for sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, we met at Burn. We spent a
Hmm.
couple of burns together, and then after that, we just started hanging out and talking and being friends and partying and doing all sorts of crazy like activities, like house parties and the
Yeah.
boneyard and all sorts of stuff. So it's just life has been wild. You are very into music, right? So how did I actually learned a lot from your DJ? What do you call those? Like videos? You did like little instructional videos that you sent me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I
So
have a DJ training course.
I started learning my deck by watching a lot of your videos, and
Right.
I've kind of experienced a lot now. Now I've learned a lot more, and I'm like, oh, okay, these are really good. They're really basic, and they introduce you to the basics. So, how did you get
Mhm.
started DJing, and what
Wow.
brought you to making, I guess, tutorials?
Of course. So when I was 14 years old, I that's when I like really fell in love with dance music to a point that I knew this is what I want to do with my life. I want to become a dance music producer and DJ. My dad had always like been planting seeds. He's very eclectic. It can be anything from salsa to jazz to dance music to all sorts of genres. That got me interested in all these different things. But as a 14-year-old, nobody else was into that. Everyone would make fun of it, calling it techno and just boots and cats music. And so I was kind of like in my own realm. I didn't have anyone to like click
Right.
with. It was just me and my dad. But when I was 14 years old, I was watching a video online of Tiesto, a trance artist, well, he was trance
Oh,
at the time, artist called Tiesto. And Tiesto was playing to 20,000 people. He had broken some like world record. And the emotion in people's faces as this one man was standing behind these turntables, and they cut the shots of the crowd, and seeing the emotion, the near tears, the love, the passion, the organic dancing that happened. And it was all coming from what this man was doing up on stage. And I'm like, I don't know what he's doing or how he's doing it. I was feeling an emotional connection sitting on the other side of a computer screen. I'm like, that's what I want to do. I don't know how to get there, but that's what I want to do. So I'd been saving up a lot of money to go and eventually be able to buy a car when I turned 16 years old. Well, I took that money that I'd been saving doing mowing lawns and working at a movie theater selling popcorn, and I took all that money, a little over $1,000, and I bought 2 turntables and a mixer and just a couple vinyl records because that's all I could afford at the time. My parents were not happy about it. They, I'm definitely one of those people that like I want to try everything in this life before it's my time. So like I'll go try something, I'll get just good enough at it, or I'll decide I don't like it, and then I move on to the next thing.
I
And they
feel
thought
that.
that's what DJing would be for me. Like DJing, you're going to spend this money that you need for a car or something that we know you need, and you're going to spend it on something that might just be the flavor of the month, and then you're going to lose all this money on this gear. So I understood where they were coming from, but I'm so glad I did it and went the other way. I had no idea what I was doing when I DJed. I sat in front of 2 vinyl records on a turntable. I had to learn from scratch. I could find little articles online, but the internet was still, relatively
It
young.
was
There's
so
nothing like
fresh.
YouTube. There's
Right.
nothing like YouTube and all the tutorials out nowadays. So, and if there was any of those resources out there, I didn't know how to access it. So I would just poke around. I had the same few vinyl, like 3 or 4 vinyl records, and I would just spin for the first couple of weeks those same records over and over, different orders of tracks, play with the little tempo slider. I knew it slowed down and sped up, but I didn't understand what DJing was. And then eventually I accidentally synced up or beat matched 2 tracks together. And I'm like, whoa,
You're
whatever
like, I
that
did
was,
it.
that's DJing. I don't know what I just did, but I just did it. And that like totally triggered. I'm like, okay, game on. Like I'm going to figure out as much as I can. So it led to me finding a company called Bugsy Productions. This is when I was living in Seattle, and found this company that does DJing, weddings, and corporate events, and not necessarily the forte that I wanted, but you have to start somewhere, and I just needed a mentor. And
Right.
so I went on with Bugsy Productions. He taught me a lot of the skills early skills that I needed, especially like being able to talk on a microphone, which led to eventually radio and things like that. And one thing after another. But before I was 18 years old, I was DJing in nightclubs. Like I'd have to get brought up to, I'd have to get escorted over to the stage or whatever, make sure I wasn't drinking alcohol or anything like that, because they were, 21 plus clubs most of the time. And so I just felt so cool. Like I'm able to get into the clubs and stuff by being the performer, but I can't get in there as someone to enjoy, some of the artists that I like going through these clubs. So like, sometimes I get booked before the acts that I wanted to go watch, but I couldn't buy a ticket to. So by playing before them gave me an opportunity to watch them. So
that's cool.
Yeah, that was kind of the start. And then as time went on, eventually I went to music production school and got a degree, my bachelor's in music production. And I had more and more people ask, like, you have such a unique way of DJing. How do we, can I pay you to do lessons? And a lot of my uniqueness, the way I DJ, just comes from experimenting. Like, if I get a knob, I'm not going to watch a tutorial on how to twist a knob or what a specific type of echo might do. I just play every combination I can possibly think with that one effect. And then I find new ways to use a knob or a new way to use a filter or a combination. And by doing that, it meant that I had this unique way of playing and twisting knobs a little bit differently than how a lot of other DJs use those knobs in the more traditional sense. And it made for kind of a unique DJing style. And so after being asked X amount of times from people like, hey, can you give me private lessons? I'm like, maybe I should streamline this and I should make a training series of videos. It's about like 7.5 hours long worth of videos that I can put out on the web.
How long ago did you make those? Because you looked so different in those.
I know. I think that was 2016 is when I filmed those. And occasionally I film a new one, and I'll release a new one on the YouTube channel. It's called Middle 8 DJ Training. Middle 8's like the unique phrase or the bridge in a song, the thing that makes a song more unique and gives you some like breath and change up from the rest of the song. So that's what I named the course, Middle 8 DJ Training. It's a little different than the way a lot of other teachers teach in the realm of DJing.
Well, I will say it has helped me a lot. It helped me understand the basics, because I took music. I was in percussion for about 6 years. So I have some music background, but I didn't understand the deck. What you enabled me to do was understand what things did. So that was really cool. And now I'm like on my own, kind of doing little bits here and there. Like I'm experimenting and exploring. And it's a really basic deck, but I really, really am enjoying it. And I have a lot of fun with it. So I appreciate that.
Of course. You know what? I think a misdemeanor is you have to have like the studio or the club centric CDJ 3000s or something to be able to do the most crazy stuff. My favorite deck in the whole world that's the most like complex as far as what I can create with it is the Denon Prime 4. It's like a single deck. It's only $2,000. It's still expensive, but for DJ decks, it's not very expensive. Like you can do a crazy amount on it. And even more than that, I have this, it's a Pioneer EDJ 400. Everyone calls it basic. It's like the beginner deck.
I have that deck, I think.
You can custom map that deck. And so I have a custom map, so I can play 4 decks at a time. I have all these extra samplers. There's so many things that you can do beyond just the basics on that thing. So that's what I DJ on when I go and I do something. And
it's little, it's the light one, right?
Yeah, it's light, super lightweight, and it gets powered from the iPad. So I've DJ'd off of hot air balloons and then rally cars and all sorts of stuff from this little deck because it's portable, it's lightweight, and I can strap it to my chest and go off.
That is literally, I'm pretty sure that's the same deck that I have, and I would love to pick your brain sometime about how to mess with that a little bit more. So,
no doubt.
How did we get here? We went from DJing to doing all sorts of stuff back at home to now we're in Tulum. How did you decide you wanted to go from an actual like housing situation to just being basically a digital nomad is what we're calling it now?
I think it's so easy. We meet a lot of people on the road now that that they get inspired by a friend or watching a YouTube video and then they just give it all up, and it's like a night and day, like a really quick transition. Mine was a little bit more of a gradual transition in the sense that back in 2015, I was working at Studio DMI, the same place I met my best friend Pike. He's one of the co-owners of that business, and that's in Las Vegas. And while I lived in Las Vegas, I had this big 3,000 square foot home, and I had all the toys that you would want and multiple vehicles. And this house, the bigger the house you have, the more stuff you fill in the house. And then I was just feeling overwhelmed. I'm like, I have just too much stuff. I was feeling overwhelmed. Like, why do I had a wife at the time, and it's just like two of us. Why do two people need so much stuff?
Right.
And so just because I felt overwhelmed, I started looking into minimalism. And heard, it wasn't, I didn't even hear the term minimalism. It's just like simplifying your life. Minimalism, that the term kind of caught on a little bit later, 2017, 18, I think is when that really caught on. But so I'm like, okay, I want to find ways to be able to minimize my life, simplify it. And so I got rid of like half of the stuff I owned. And then we moved into a smaller house. And then about a year later, I got rid of half of that stuff. And my life started getting more and more simple. Like there's so much clutter that comes in your brain by owning stuff.
Right.
Like simply by having a big house and by having a nice lawn, you have to have a lawnmower. I use this analogy. Well, the lawnmower, you pull into the driveway and your brain is immediately filled with clutter. Just around, let's say, the lawnmower, for instance. I see the lawnmower and I'm like, shoot, when was the last time I cut the grass? I need to cut the grass this weekend. I can't go out and play with my friends right away like I want to. Or maybe I haven't done an oil change on the lawnmower in a little bit. When was the last time I sharpened the blades on the lawnmower? Oh, I left a trail of grass into the garage with my lawnmower. All of that mental clutter is associated with one piece, one tool that I need to keep up this big house that's sitting in my garage. And you multiply this by the many, many things you own. And so I started getting like addicted to this idea of owning less. And so eventually, unfortunately, I ended up getting a divorce. And this was right near the start of COVID. And during this process, I had owned a motorhome at this point, purchased a motorhome at 28 foot. And I'm like, well, this is great. It's going to like limit how many things I own. I'm just going to put what I need into this motorhome and get rid of everything else, sell it, give it away, give it to my ex. And it really simplified things. And not long after that, I met this amazing human being called Christo, and my life changed for the better. Something I always wanted to do was travel the world as much as possible. And although I used to be in the Air Force, in the military, and I would get to travel through that, it wasn't like tourist travel. You go to a new destination and be able to get off base a little bit.
Right.
But it definitely gave me the bug. Like I want to travel the world and really see what it has to offer on my own terms. And so I met Crystal, but I told her, hey, I got a divorce. I want to give myself a couple-year break. I'm not looking for a relationship at all. I want to give myself a couple-year break, and I just want to go see the world. And the first stop for me is Costa Rica. I love the jungle. I love the animals. I like the Pura Vida, like easy lifestyle there. And that's going to be my first stop. And she says, well, I kind of want to go with you. I'm like, really? Okay, like, where's this going to lead to? Well, it led to her quitting her 9-to-5 job, doing a HR position at a really prestigious upscale restaurant in New York City.
Right.
And I was living in Utah at the time, southern Utah, in the deserts near Zion National Park, a fantastic, beautiful place. But we couldn't be two worlds more apart at this point. But she decided to quit. And on literally a whim of me traveling and visiting in New York City, we leave this event that we were at after sunrise. We partied all night. We leave at sunrise and we do this surprise date. I said, you know what? I'm going to take you on a date. I'm going to show you around New York City. I didn't know anything about New York City. I'm not going to lie. I've been there once before, but I didn't know anything. I said,
so you were winging it the whole time.
Yeah. Give me the keys to your car. I'm going to take you on a date, baby. So she gave me the keys. I told her not to say anything. I said, just let me make wrong turns. So as we're driving, I was like, oh, make up history of a building or tell her about a certain person walking down the street. We walked through a beautiful cemetery. We talked about the afterlife. Like we had deep conversations in between all the goofy stuff. And at one point we're walking near Dumbo, right at the Brooklyn Bridge. And it's later in the day. And I said, you know what? I just had like this overwhelming feeling hit me. And within a few seconds of having this overwhelming feeling without processing it, I said, you know what? I'm moving to New York City.
Right.
I'm gonna help you do this transition. We're
gonna do this together.
Getting rid of some of your stuff. We're traveling the world together. And it was like really, it hit me like a wrecking ball. Like I haven't had a more instantaneous, like it brought me to tears. Literally, I started crying when I said it. I'm someone that hadn't cried as an adult man. I don't know. It's just I grew up. You're supposed to be a macho man, and I definitely was not in contact with this feminine side of myself ever. And it hit. And then all of a sudden I like started being myself more. After I started being with her, I'm like, I can really be myself. And so I'm still a heterosexual man and I have my masculine moments, but I'm also like in touch with the feminine now. And like occasionally I cry just because life is so beautiful. And she's shown me like such an amazing, amazing thing. So at this point, when I'm like, well, we should document this, even if it's just for us and it's like a personal diary, let's start like documenting this. We'll put it on YouTube. Our family and friends can follow, and then they'll be like, where were you this week? Or what have you been up to? It's like, oh, just go watch our video. You can like learn about what we were just doing, rather than us tell you, like be there with us. And so that was like the initial concept. I like the idea of like getting a following and all that, but we didn't want too much stress at the beginning. And as time's gone on, I'm like, this could be like, I think we have a magical thing together. If I can just find out how to tell better stories, because we have amazing stories constantly happening to us.
Well, I think,
and if I could just learn to tell those stories better, and put them in a format that's like palatable for everybody, I think this is something that everyone would love. So that's what we're focused on now. The Crystal Show is like something that, you know, we can share with the world, and how teach love and education is the main thing. We're constantly focused on love and educating ourselves, and we want to like pass that on and let the viewer come along with us and learn about the world and these cultures and the many things that there's to be learned in the self-development, but also, you know, do it in a loving way and learn to love nature and people. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's been an amazing transition. COVID was really the catalyst for that.
COVID really upended a lot of people, because I was kind of going through a very similar journey as you were at the same time, and I also felt the same way about my current partner, where I'm like, I don't want to get into a relationship. I just want to explore for a while and find myself again. And that turned out to be a complete mess, because I just couldn't not be around my current partner. Like, I was like, you know, so I feel that, but at some point you have to go and embrace the change that is happening in your life. And you've definitely done that.
Absolutely. And you have too. I mean, you said you feel better than you've felt in your whole life. You have purpose right now. How amazing
I am unapologetically myself now, and it is awesome.
That's so beautiful. And to find somebody that unlocks that for you. Like, I don't know if you and I could have done it on our own. I think we needed that significant other to do it. And the fact that we're not looking for it means that I think when you're not looking for love, when you're not looking for a partner or a best friend, and in fact, you're looking the opposite way, that means when you do find that right person, like we found, that comes into your life, then you're not hungering, you're not striving for their attention, you're not making excuses why they're not right in a certain way. You're actually looking for excuses to push them away. And you're like, you know what? You're like passing all the tests plus some. I'm not even, you know, it's a testament to a great partner. And I think we both found some, and we're so lucky.
If a relationship is effortless and you don't have to work towards it, and you're already there, and you always feel like you've known each other forever, and it just is comfortable and you can be yourself, that is the healthiest situation you can definitely be in.
I agree. I totally agree. I'm so happy and envious of you and for you. So
yeah,
congrats.
Yeah, Thank you. I appreciate that.
Amazing. Good for you.
I am, so now that we're both discovering the world with our partners, what have you learned on your travels?
So much. I think there's a couple different ways to travel. There's a lot of different ways to travel, but there's a way that I would travel with my parents when I was younger, which is like, you know, you go to resorts, you go do touristy stuff. And then there's the way we're traveling now, which is a way I've always wanted to travel, but you need the right person to do it with. If you don't have the right person, you can't unlock your brain to really be open. You're always concerned about making them happy, or you don't want them to get uncomfortable going to this area, or having this experience might not be the commercial fun experience. It's rather uncomfortable sometimes, but that's where the real growth happens. And so
I feel like this is my theory on traveling with a partner. I feel like if it's somebody that you can camp with, be in a hostel with, be uncomfortable at airports with, and still support each other and not like end up fighting with each other, that's your travel partner.
Definitely.
Like, if you can backpack across Europe with just a backpack and nothing else, that is your travel buddy.
Amen. Yeah. So I found the perfect travel buddy. Yeah. We just got done. Okay. Here's good examples. We just got done spending 3 months in South Africa, and we went through Lesotho in South Africa. And the reason we chose that place in particular was we put up a little poll online and we said, should we go to Vietnam or South Africa? And almost everybody said, let's go to Vietnam. And so we're like, okay, South Africa it is. Like we want the challenge.
Right.
And then once we said South Africa, everyone's like, just stay away from Johannesburg. Okay, let's start the trip in Johannesburg. Let's do a few weeks in Johannesburg. And it's just like, okay, there's a challenge to be had, and there's somebody that wants to get uncomfortable. I think major growth in life, not just traveling, happens when you're uncomfortable. Your brain is turned on to a point when you don't get comfortable, time actually slows down. The last 2 years feels like, honestly, if I had to, you didn't tell me how many days it was, I would say it was about 5 years, 4.5 to 5 years in length. It feels like it's taken that long to go by. Where right up before I started doing this traveling with Crystal and living my life with her, I had that really stereotypical every year felt a little bit faster than the last.
Right.
Like every year was getting a little bit shorter. You fall into a routine, and routines mean that things become white noise and then time kind of compresses. But when you're challenging yourself in a new location and new cultures, with new endeavors constantly, and you're really striving to learn everything you can about the other person, time really slows down. It's a lot of processing power. And when you're spending a lot of time doing processing, time kind of stretches. And so I feel like I've found a miracle drug to give myself a longer life. And that is simply by experiencing more stuff and like really trying to process what is happening in front of me all the time. It's really amazing.
Okay. So do you have a dream? Because I know you have gone, let me see if I can remember. You've gone to Costa Rica. You were in Italy. You've gone back to New York a few times. You were in Vegas a couple of times. South Africa. Did I miss any? I said Italy, right?
Oh yeah. Italy, Switzerland, Austria,
Switzerland,
Belgium. What, babe? Actually, Crystal's right over here. Sweetheart, what was the name of the Princeton? Liechtenstein.
Okay.
It's the smallest Princeton in the world.
I had most of them though. Yeah, I had a lot of them.
We did South Africa. We did Lesotho. Obviously Mexico now. We had countries that we passed through, but we didn't count them. Unless we can stop and really explore them, they don't count for us. I think we're on our 14th country in the last year and a half or 2 years.
That's incredible. So now, for those who don't know, for I guess podcast sake, what do you do now as your living to help supplement your travel?
That's a great question. I eat out of my savings, and I have a very, very supportive girlfriend that has a business. I'm not gonna lie. To be honest, the studio, when COVID happened, my studio that I ran, which is Middle Age Studios, actually went almost dormant, like a couple clients a month kind of thing. March, April, May, and then I'm like, you know what? This is like a real opportunity for me. At first, it was a little stressful, but along with Piper, like, you know, he's a full-time touring DJ and internationally, and he's like, you know, I'm not doing anything, you're not doing anything. We both love film and movies. That's what we initially clicked over. And we're like, you know what, let's start our own thing. So we started what we call Bum Films, Big Ups Media, but we both felt like bums, so we started Bum Films, and it gave us an opportunity to start like practicing and trying something else that we were interested in that was only a hobby up to that point. And that's where the camera and all of the, well, now vlog, it all came from. For a short while, we were running as directors of photography and doing production for Las Vegas Rap Rods, which was a big show on TLC, and became the film guys for Steve Darnell, which was like a dream job for bike especially. And but now that we're doing a YouTube channel, I'm not gonna lie, if you want to like really go all in and do something like this, you're not gonna make money right away. You can't.
Right.
I mean, there is really no money being had yet.
The podcast is right in the same situation, so I feel that.
Until you get a proper following, a social following, brands don't want to invest in you, which makes complete sense. You need a proof of concept. You need to really show a track record, and so that's what we're working on right now. Finding our specific look, feeling, and vibe. How do we tell stories? What do they look like? I have a lot of skills now as a camera operator, as an editor. And so like when I do videos for clients, which occasionally happens, those are like my polished, like I'm expressing my skills and using gimbals and such. But that's not what a lifestyle vlog needs. You need to actually like make it feel more personal and dumb it down. And you don't always have time to throw a mic on or light something. It's supposed to be more like on the go. So it's like finding that right feeling and vibe. We're still doing that. We're like, I don't know how many videos we have up now, but quite a lot of videos already.
I'll make sure everybody gets links to all your stuff.
Doug
Just in the
Cristaldo on
descriptions.
YouTube.
Right.
Thank you. But but yeah, that doesn't make a lot of money. What we are doing, which is crazy because we're very few followers. I think a lot of people think there's like you have to have 100,000 followers or 1 million before you get some really solid brand deals. We're already getting brand deals. I think it's easy for us to ask for trades, for instance, instead of saying, hey, give me a certain amount of money to produce this next video and put you as a sponsor. And so what that means is we just got back from Bacalar Lagoon, and it's right on the border with Belize. It's amazing. It's like this crystal clear water. The sand is like so white, and it's because it's actually like really heavy in sulfur. There's only like 3 fish species that live there because it's so high in minerals.
Right.
And it was actually our first time sailing. So we went sailing, and we stayed at this amazing resort for free. It was essentially a trade. It's like, hey, for a mention in our video, you want to give us this experience. Yeah,
Right.
we'll promote your spot. So we do that occasionally where it's like an Airbnb, or I think this was found on booking.com. You know, it's experiences. We did the world's tallest commercial bungee jump. We do rafting, or we've done, you know, all sorts of stuff that is trades. So we'll work as trades essentially. So that's the way to like supplement. These are things we want to do regardless during our travels. They're going to cost us money, but instead of making physical dollars, it's alleviating some of the dollars we would spend otherwise by operating with some trades with companies. So that's really the only way that the channel currently is providing any source of, let's say, income or alleviating the expenses. But other than that, Bristol owns an amazing American restaurant. It's like a dine out only restaurant in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and it's called Home Freak. And she runs that. They just started selling franchises, and so yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, to the moon with that. Who knows where that goes? And they're really driven on that. So I'm doing their social media there, so that's you know, a little bit of an income generator. But Bristol really is the one that's funding this amazing lifestyle we have, and I'm eternally grateful for her for so many reasons. But that's definitely a big one.
Right. So if you were to make a suggestion to people getting into a lifestyle like this, what would you say? How would you say they start? And what would you say is the hardest thing to do?
Oof.
I know.
Okay. The way to start is actually going to be the hardest thing to do as well. The minimalism is humongous. The less stuff you own, the less overhead you have. A lot of people are like, how do you afford to do this? Well, the cost of traveling around the world and doing a lot of this actually is more affordable than the way a lot of typical middle of the road kind of Americans live. If you get rid of, you know, the extra vehicles, registrations and insurances and the gas money that goes along with it and the house rent and so many of those other things, if you can alleviate the costs of a lot of that, the upkeep on, you know, the stuff you
Right.
if you can just alleviate a lot of those costs, you realize, well, I actually have like a bit of extra money, and like, how can I reallocate this money? And you reallocate them towards plane trips, or towards Airbnbs, or, you know, a lot of like right here. I'm not going to say Tulum's that affordable compared to a lot of the countries we've been to, but you know, compared to New York City, which is what we call home base, it's much more affordable than somewhere like New York City. You know, South Africa, it's amazing. Some of the places you can stay for pennies on the dollar kind of thing. It's just, you know, our dollar is so much more powerful around the world than a lot of these countries' currencies. But the initial making the decision to cut out a lot of the stuff in your life that you don't currently need, like, you really sit down and think about how much have I actually used. Right? Choose one item. It can be anything that you own. When was the last time I used this item, and how much joy does it genuinely bring me? Is it necessary in my life? And if it's not, saying goodbye to those things is really hard. When you start, it's really, really hard until you get the ball rolling to say goodbye to things that you own that might be sitting in the closet for the last 3 years and haven't gotten touched. Right. But being able to, and knowing that other people don't put the same value that you do. you hold a lot of value. Like I realized at the beginning, I was trying to sell things similar. They're like, well, they're hardly used. I bought this thing for $400. I'm going to try selling it for 300. Good luck with that. You'll probably get a quarter of what it's worth out of it, like what it is to you. And being able to like bite the bullet over and over again and realizing, I'm not going to get nearly the monetary value out of these things. And just get rid of them and just be okay with that, knowing it's leading to a more fruitful life in the future for you, assuming this lifestyle is right for you, then that's a really hard step to take. But I think it's one that's necessary. So it's probably worth trying to travel a little bit before you depart from a lot of your belongings and the things you might store. But even now that we own very little, every time we go back, we store some things in my motorhome that we still own in Utah. And we own some stuff that we store at Crystal's parents in Pennsylvania. And every time we go back to visit them, we're like, shoot, we even forgot we own this stuff. We thought, a lot of these things were necessary to our happiness and essential, but we forget we even own them. And it's like, well, if you forget you own them, how important are they truly to your happiness? So that is a really big step, is being able to say goodbye to a lot of the stuff. And then you're lighter on your feet. You don't have to worry about, I have to get home to winterize this thing, or I don't have to, worry about the landscaping here while I'm gone, or making sure the property manager's paid, or, I'm not saying owning property or whatever is a wrong decision. I think everyone has their own approach to life, but for what it's been for us, it's actually, less is more.
That's great. I think that's a valuable advice there. You were talking a little bit about your mobile DJ setup with your little deck. Where have you taken this? Because I've seen some videos. I share them every once in a while. I remember you went to Fremont Street, DJ'd live there. You've done the beach pretty recently. What sort of inspired you to get mobile with your DJ stuff? Oh, the scariest one was when was it Zion going up a mountain with your equipment?
Angel's Landing.
Terrifying. I was scared for you the entire video. I don't.
Good. That's what
it was horrifying.
Okay, so the DJ controller we call Nora, and the rack I made out of wood in a couple hours one day, and I call it Nora's rack, and it essentially is just straps onto my chest, rests on my waist, and I could walk anywhere with it. I can DJ anywhere with it, and it's opened up some pretty fun, creative possibilities. Years and years ago, I wanted to be able to DJ anywhere. I'm like, I was getting into video enough that I'm like, it'd be great to just film DJing anywhere.
Right.
And there was, I've seen one or two videos up to this point of people doing it and really planted the seed. But there's a group that does it around some of the most beautiful places in the world called Circle. And I think they're maybe Spanish. But anyway, there's such amazing locations. And then they've kind of like fueled a bunch of other people doing it. But before these guys came out, I filmed myself like in the middle of the desert. I was up on a mountain. I did it in the middle of a meadow. Apparently, like there's nothing around me. And it took a while before I could actually do that because I didn't have access to a generator. I don't want to be running a generator in the middle of nowhere and getting all my gear out to the middle of these places. There's a lot of logistics involved in like bringing real gear and all that. So I did it out in the middle of a ski slope one time, but it was very taxing. And so once I came up with this idea, I found out about that controller we talked about, the Pioneer DDJ 400, and I found out I could power it off of an iPad. I didn't need a generator or anything. I was already so proficient at DJing solely in my headphones without needing any monitors. And I'm like, this opens the door to anywhere. If I can just make a platform to put this on. So I ended up building a platform. And literally about the exact same time, there's this guy named Suat, S-U-A-T, that's from the UK. I think he's from London. And he did something similar, but with a much bigger, more unwieldy rig. But he was still like walking the streets of London doing this. And I'm like, wow, I like that concept, but I don't want to just be in a city. I want to be like, I'm an adventure guy. I like, rappelling and snowboarding. And what about if I can take the DJ setup to all these places? So it's led me to some great places. We did a set where I was in essentially an off-road buggy, and we went doing donuts and jumping things, and I DJ'd from the passenger seat of one of these. I've done the New York City Pride Ride, the gay Pride Ride with hundreds or thousands of people a couple times now. That goes down through Central Park and Manhattan, and we lead the bike ride. I'm literally sitting on a bike DJing, and leading this bike ride, and I played for like 4 or 5 hours straight of the high energy, fun music, keep everyone dancing. We stop at intermittent spots throughout New York City, and we party all night and get huge crowds of people cheering. It's just so much fun. I've done it from a hot air balloon. One of my favorites, honestly, is the one you're talking about, which was Zion, Angel's Landing.
It's terrifying. You're walking, but looking at your deck on these tiny, tiny little pathways that are probably, some of them are probably not even pathways.
Yeah.
Scary. I don't know.
It's actually known as one of the most deadly hikes in America. People die every year off of that. They fall off of it. At one point, you have like 1,800 or 2,000 foot cliffs on either side of you, and at one point, I think it's like 4 feet wide. The rock is. So you're going along this rock, and it's got sand on the sandstone. So there's some chains to guide yourself, so you're not slipping off either side. That's probably like the most dangerous part of it. But I mean, it's quite a dangerous route. But I've done it. At that time, I'd done it a handful of times with nothing mounted to me. And so this day in particular, it actually was snowing on the way to it, driving into Zion. And I'm like, I don't necessarily want to be hiking on this in the snow, but luckily it lit up before we got to the trailhead. You can definitely see there was a bit of snow during the hike. It was very cold. I could hardly feel my hands DJing it, but it's maybe like a 2.5 hour DJ set where we start at the bottom, just record live until we get to the very top of the summit, and sitting up on the summit and DJ for a while. Yeah, I've DJed from in the ocean, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, you should put a link to that video. It is a lot of fun.
What is the YouTube channel that all of that is on?
Mobile Music Crew. So MOBILE, music spelled normal, and crew is with a K. So KREW.
Got it. I will put it in the description below.
Yeah. Actually, we have a lot of fun with that. We're going to be doing some pretty cool ones in New York City when I get back to New York City. So, yeah.
Do you travel with your? Obviously, you travel with your deck, right?
Sometimes, just depends on where we go. Believe it or not, we don't check bags when we travel. Minus Africa, we've never checked a bag, and we only did that because it was stuff we were donating. So it's just a small carry-on bag with clothes and such, and then a backpack with all my computer for editing, my cameras, drone, all that kind of stuff in a backpack, and that's what we live out of. So because of that, the Nora doesn't come with us very often. But if it's an easy enough trip and I know we're going to be stationary enough to make sense of having her with us, the little DJ controller, then we'll bring her as well.
Very cool. So when we first met, I met you at Burn, and then we kind of our little Burn community has become a separate sort of Burn community on its own. Called Boneyard, and it's basically become this family. What I really love about Burning Man is the people that I've met at the Burn are really human. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They're like you said earlier, they're unapologetically themselves.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to tap into like this childish mindset and don't worry about people judging. And I think that makes some really interesting traits when you're going to meet another person. You can cut through all the bullshit and get right to who is that person and how can they add value to my life, or I add value to their life. Do we click? And you're not pretending. You're putting on this persona to impress somebody.
In addition to that, the 10 principles are something that we kind of all follow, not just at the playa, not just at our other little regional events, whatever. It's something that we've all adapted to our lives as kind of, I know it's kind of silly, but it's kind of like our life gospel at this point. Like, there are points in the principles that make you consider others and consider yourself and consider your family and consider just the moment. And I think that I was talking to somebody else about how the Burn sort of changed my life for the better, and it's allowed me to meet just incredible people who we have real human experiences, which is really amazing.
It is, yeah. Without a doubt, it's changed my life. Like, just like you said, some of the people I've met have opened doors. I mean, Crystal was met through burner. She wasn't a burner actually when I met her, but she has that burner personality. She just, because of COVID, had never had the opportunity to really go in that period of time, and has done plenty of burner related stuff since then. But that was all introductions through burner family that I had made. We call them burners, but you know, it's just genuinely just amazing, interesting people. You know, you can sit in a circle of people and everyone talks on the same level. You feel like everyone has an equal seat at the table.
Right.
But you also don't know who these people are. Sometimes these people are honestly, you know, people that have $500 million to their name. Other people that, you know, might be lawyers. Some people might work in catering. Some people might work in McDonald's. You literally have no idea, and everyone treats each other as equal. They put aside all the bullshit that you get in the what we call the default world, and these expectations of, well, you're a lawyer, so you know I should talk up to you because you probably make X amount of dollars and have this type of house and this type of car. But we literally give zero shits about any of that in the community. It's like we judge each other on who you are as a person.
Right.
Cut away all the bullshit. And I think being able to cut away labels and everything else that's involved in the default world really lets you expedite a friendship and get to the point of, are you somebody that I want in my life on a daily basis or not? And because of that, I've met some amazing people that have changed my life and opened my eyes. A lot of personal self-growth since the burn, without a doubt.
Amen. I feel that on like a spiritual level that I can't even describe. So when you're traveling, what are some of the cultural differences and experiences that you have kind of adopted? Since we're talking about adopting burner principles, what have you adopted from other cultures?
Okay, so I started alluding to this a little bit earlier, but I'll get back to it. Like in South Africa, for instance, we had like a big mind shift change on like what we wanted to get out of our future voyages when we went to South Africa. I think you know, we wanted to go and help and make a difference, for instance, but we didn't want to do the white saviorism thing and go and like, we don't have any carpentry skills, but we're going to pretend to like help build a school that, you know, a real carpenter might have to fix later. You know, we want to do away with that, but make an impact. And so part of that led to, well, let's just go find out what people actually need, which means we have to learn who these people are. Let's get to really, doesn't matter if, you know, it's somebody that's from a prestigious position, might be a Caucasian in South Africa. There's still a lot of cultural diversity and racial issues there. So it didn't matter if we were dealing with somebody that was white that might have it really well off, or it was a black person from a township or a ghetto. Like let's treat everyone like equals. Let's find out like how this culture really works and how we can make the biggest impact. And by doing that, it led to meeting some amazing people that we're going to keep in contact with. Some friends, like one that's already like we convinced to come to New York and like to help launch his business internationally. Like, you know what, like come to New York. This man we met in Johannesburg, that you remember we weren't supposed to go to Johannesburg,
right?
And by getting to know people and just really ask questions, like believe it or not, so there's a giant township called Soweto. Soweto is quite famous. It was birth of a huge cultural movement, and it was where Nelson Mandela is from. And we were there, and a lot of these people have no education. They have no school, and they can't even leave the township. It's only blacks. It's really different for them to see white people there. So we actually went on a tour. There's a point where we want to make sure we're safe where we're going. Well, we get into some of these encounters, some of the places we're going, because, you know, we are so different, or we might be perceived with money. And in places, some of these places, people get killed literally over a pair of shoes, having a nice pair of shoes. And it just happened just before we went to one of these townships. In the same place that I ended up doing a concert for kids. And so we go in, and a couple of these two men that we spoke to that had no education and hadn't left Soweto were the two most intellectual men we met in the 3 months that we had spent in South Africa. Wow. And they had no real formal education. There's some great thinkers and people that like, they're hungry. You see a lot in New York City, these people that come in and they came from little to no education and $10 in their pocket, and they're the hardest workers or the people that are hungriest to learn and really make a change for themselves. And they become so much more than a lot of these people that are more and more or less with golden spoons in their mouths that are from New York City. And it's really amazing to see. And that, you know, by staying hungry and being willing to learn about people, about the world around you, and, you know, question, like, hey, I might be from this community, but what this community is saying they're doing, is it really right? And so a lot of the things, places that I've come from and the ideology I was raised with, I actually question on a daily basis. And we have real intellectual conversations, Crystal and I, about these things that, like, I don't think a lot of people in our positions question.
They don't.
Ends up making us side with people that you might think are scary or otherwise, you know, wrong. And I think that's been a really big thing for us. It's like learning a lot of the happiest people we've ever met are also, in our eyes, might be from America. And you see on a commercial with the Sarah McLachlan song should be like some of the most unfortunate, sad people in the world. It's like, you know, actually, a lot of these people, I think, have more genuine happiness than a lot of individuals that might be making six figures back at home.
Right.
And you realize a lot of your happiness doesn't come from, you know, what you have, you know, bank account or what belongings you own, but it comes from in here. And being able to realize that mental health is your responsibility. It's not, you can't just blame other people or your government or, you know, a specific group that's putting down your people. Like, some of the happiest people we met are also some of the ones that are most, you know, have the most prejudice applied onto them, you know. And it's Africa was a huge learning opportunity for us. And so there's so many places in the world that are so different than our own. Like Japan, Crystal's been to Japan and said it's like culturally the most different place she's ever been. It's just so different than the way we were raised in our style of life. Like a lot of Asia, for instance, go to Russia, these places, like, you know, maybe North Korea. Like, I'd love to go to these countries that we think are so different and scary. Like, maybe it's not as scary as we think, and you really open your mind to their way of life or understanding their situation, and you'll understand they are the way they are. But the one thing that rings so true is, doesn't matter where we go, whether it's third world, first, second, people have the same needs and desires. People just want to feel loved and seen and cared for. And you know, of course, money is an amazing tool and can help you achieve a lot of these things, but it's not necessary. And I think it's a really beautiful thing that people have taught us, and culture around the world has helped us become better people, individuals.
I think that is amazing. I think we could learn a lot from other cultures, and there is a lot in American media that I know does not exist outside of America. And I don't think people think enough about other people, just in general. They only think about themselves. The media really just wants to focus on the bad. We've got all these people who want to white knight and help, but they're not really helping. So I think it's really important that we take and listen to people who have been there and take those lessons to heart, because, like, it's just hard seeing one aspect and not being able to experience the other.
Right. Yeah. If you're like me, and I think a lot of people are, we're all kids at heart. And someone can tell you a fire is hot, but it's not until you put your finger near the fire and you're like, wow, that hurt. That actually is hot. Sometimes you have to experience things yourself to really understand it. You can have someone preach. Like, there's all these sayings that we hear on a daily basis, and have since kids, and we never thought there was much to it until you start experiencing it. You're like, wow, that there's actually something to this, but you have to experience it to realize that yourself, to realize that there's something to it. It's hard to take other people's word for a lot of things. And so we're attempting, like with the Crystal Show, to do our part and learn how to do it effectively, to show people as we learn these lessons. You know, not everyone's going to have the ability. Some people might have kids at home, or they might have, you know, some kind of responsibility that keeps them from living a life like us. And I realize how absolutely fortunate we are. I live a life beyond my wildest dreams. If you were to ask me when I was in high school, what did I want to do when I grew up? I would set a DJ and travel the world, but I never would have realized I would be getting the kind of personal growth and interactions with people and doing the things that I'm doing at that age. I just live a life beyond my wildest dreams. And I realize a lot of people might not be able to tap into that. I do think it's something you have to tap into, but life circumstance has to offer it as well. And so I'm hoping that like through our vlog, we'll be able to tell these stories and show it from a unique perspective, but also an authentic one that people hopefully can start learning through our eyes or through the camera lens that follows us, some of these lessons that we're learning in person. But the world is truly a unique place, and there's so many cultures and so many different ways of life. You might be, the culture is driven because you're from the forest, the jungle right next to the ocean, or maybe you live in the middle of the desert. Like someone's ideology on something as simple as, you know, how they treat you know, shelter is going to be so different in these two different places, and that leads so many other life decisions in their life. So being able to travel to such a diverse amount of places around the world is really opening a lot of doors for us in personal growth. And it's so nice to, it's like feeling like you're at a smorgasbord board where you have like, you can pick and choose your favorite things from each culture. What do you like and what don't you like? But you also start seeing trends and patterns with each one, and start understanding it's not an issue with a culture or region. It's actually like a human condition. Certain things are human conditions.
Right.
And a lot of things are just baked into us. I mean, we're just smart monkeys. I feel like we're monkeys that are too smart for our own good.
Wait, I'm sorry, you cut out. We're what?
We are just really smart monkeys.
Oh.
We're like monkeys that are too smart for their own good, and I truly believe that. And so we, you know, I've seen people that have everything on paper that you would imagine should be happy. They have really nice cars, beautiful house, great wife, nice job, but they're depressed. And then I found people that have zero and they're so happy. And I think we like making stress for ourselves, and everyone's depressed to a point, but I think we're supposed to be. It's part of the human condition. Imagine us 30,000 years ago, you and I. You don't have all the things we have now. We don't have iPhones in front of us. We don't have electricity. We don't have shelter like you do right now.
Right.
You have to fend for yourself. There's a certain amount of, you know, you have to worry about a lion eating your ass or looking around the corner. There's a certain amount of natural stress that got dosed on you every day. But now that we don't have any of those natural stresses, we're finding ways to replace them. And finding a healthy relationship with how you add stress into your life. Don't think that I don't have stress in my life. I have a ton of stress that is added intermittently. But being able to choose and decide, like, is this a stress that I'm going to let into my life because I need to let something into my life? Okay, yes, I'm going to let this into my life, and I know I can navigate it. Versus, you know, a lot of people get over-inundated and kind of debilitated with some stresses or depressions, and it's hard to speak for everyone because I'm not everyone. I'm only me. But I'm learning a lot about, you know, being able to navigate that world within head by traveling. It's beautiful.
That's amazing. Yeah, I always describe myself. I'm a self-described Chihuahua. Everything stresses me out. Like, you know how Chihuahuas are like, they shake when they're cold, they shake when they're excited, they shake when they are uncomfortable. That's me all the time. So I have been making a better effort to be less like a Chihuahua. And I'm trying.
More like which breed? Which breed do you want to be more like?
Well, I love my dog. I definitely feel like I could learn a lot from I have a corgi. I feel like I could learn a lot from him because he is, while he has his moments of like nervousness, he is more of an explorer and he is a lot less stressed than a Chihuahua. So like, I want to be like him when I grow up. That's a good, I want to be a corgi. Dog. I want to be a hardworking corgi. Did you? So you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Everything stressed the dog out. Like, oh wait, I'm getting a fresh bowl of wet dog food. I'm stressed out.
Just
everything stressed that dog out. Yeah. You know what we met last night for the first time? We were walking through Town. We met one of the Mexican hairless dogs. It was the first time I've ever seen one. Have you seen those?
Yeah, they're crazy looking.
They're crazy. They have like little patches of random hair. And it feels like neck skin. Besides, they don't have sweat pores, so it feels like dry neck skin. The whole dog. It's crazy. I don't know what their lifestyle is like, but maybe I'm a Mexican hairless dog. I don't know.
Okay, perfect. That's hilarious. Was this like a feral dog that you met, or like somebody owned it?
She was just one of the shops we were walking by. Crystal's son, she's like, we got to go back and touch that dog. So we went back and touched it. The owner of the shop was sitting out in front and was telling us all about it. It's like, they see it here in Mexico. It was like the Mayan saw it as like a sign of angels or something like that. So, I mean, it's got like a pretty cool story, but without a doubt, it's like one of the ugliest dogs I've seen. It is so ugly. It is ugly. I like
that you got close to like kind of whisper that just to make sure nobody heard you.
It's ugly. But I think the dog embraces it, which is beautiful. You know, like, you know, there's going to be ugly people. I know I'm not the prettiest guy, but I embrace it. Like, you know, whatever.
Everybody's different and lovable in their own unique ways.
Yeah, you just got to embrace it.
All right. Well, let's, where are you going next?
Back to, you know what we just did? We just got an apartment in New York City, dog.
What?
Yeah.
What? So so you're going back to home base.
We're going back to home base. That way we can just sublet it out whenever we're out of the city.
Perfect.
So, hey, you want to sublet New York City? Hit us up. We're in Brooklyn. But no, we're going to be going back to Brooklyn. And then at the end of next month, I'm going to see you.
I know.
In Arizona.
I know. I'm excited.
Weird, baby.
We are going to be, I guess I guess I could probably tease this. We are fundraising for an art car. That's what we're doing.
Explain what an art car is for someone.
So an art car is a vehicle that is typically anywhere between a golf cart to a school bus to a flatbed truck, semi, whatever.
To a 747 airplane.
To a 747 airplane. Well, technically that wasn't really an art car. It was more of a stage.
No. They moved it around. I mean, they got registered as an art car.
Did it really?
They did move it around.
Oh my gosh. I never even went in it. It was so packed all the time. So I was like, nope. But basically you take a shell of a vehicle and you build a mutant vehicle. You build something on it, a stage, a platform, a couch, stands to watch other people. It could
vagina.
It could be a roll. Yeah, it could be giant fish. It could be a shark. It could be a butthole. It could be anything. Like
a butthole. That sounds like a really shitty art car.
Yeah. But it could be anything, and most of the time it has a sound system. Most of the time it's got like a hangout space. It's got bike racks on it. Whatever people decide to make. And they literally cruise around the playa, typically, or even other festivals, and they just are rolling party buses, basically.
Rolling pieces of art.
So we're gonna be doing that.
Radically modified vehicles. I love them. And our friend Spike, my amazing friend. He's invited us out to the boneyard. I love him. So, like, he's like, talk about personal growth. So much growth of mine has come from just watching this man. He's like, he's lived 3 amazing, like, individual lives. You're like, how's this all one person? I won't get too much into him. All you need to know is, Spike, you're amazing. If you're listening to this, I love you. And this man owns the boneyard, and he wants to build a
I'm just gonna clip that and send it to him.
Send it. Yeah. There's a soundbite. Throw it up on Reels.
Like,
with just a quick photo montage of him like halo jumping out of airplanes and DJing in front of tens of thousands of people and racing MotoGP bikes. Like, the guy's insane.
He's awesome. Insane. And he's like the most humble dude I think I've ever met in my life.
And he's about this big. Maybe about just that big. A little Italian man. Oh, yeah. He's cute. He's very cute.
He is. He definitely is. I'm gonna have to show pictures of everybody doing crazy things.
Like Super Mario.
Pretty much.
That would be a great costume. We should totally make him a Super Mario costume.
Oh my gosh, and then bring it.
Woof.
Gosh, that's...
He'd love it. We'll have like maybe our car will just be a series of tubes and pipes that he can pop.
That he can come in and out of. DJ in and out of.
Yeah, baby.
But yeah, so I'll see you at the end of the October. I'm excited.
Perfect.
Halloween, baby. That's my favorite holiday. But it's cool that you're coming home. It's cool that we're going back to the desert. It is exciting. I'm excited to see Crystal again. I only met her one time at the boneyard, actually.
It's adorable. You want to see her right now?
Absolutely. Does she want to be on the podcast?
Unsolicited? No, she probably doesn't. But I'm gonna flip the camera. You ready? She doesn't know I'm doing it. Oh, she knows now. Oh!
Hi. So that's the other half.
Girl.
That's the other half of.
Any guys watching right now? Sorry, dude.
Oh.
It's mine. What do they do on the old rap videos? Like,
Yeah. They gotta dust it off. All right. Well, where can everybody find you? What is the next project? And let's wrap it up.
Okay, let's wrap it up. So much stuff is always in the works, but I'm going to keep it so simple, and you'll find out everything you need to know about me.
Are you keeping
through this
it minimal?
one handle. I'm going to keep it minimal. Go to YouTube and type in the little @ symbol, because now YouTube does handles. I don't know if you know that. It makes life easy.
It's so good.
The Christo Show. That's THE and Christo. CRI.
It's right by your finger, actually. It's
STOL. Here, tell me when I'm touching.
Perfect. Right there. Wait. Yeah. Perfect. Right there.
Right here. Check us out, guys. Honestly, the Christo Show. And be like, I feel like we're so young still. I mean, the channel, and I've been told I look young, but so check us out for real, and join the journey with us. Like, it's so much fun when people make suggestions and help like shape our trips as well. Like, go check this out. It's like, hey, what is this? So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we're going some pretty unique, special places, and have lots of. We're about to go scuba diving through underwater caves this weekend through cenotes, in Mayan ruins. So like that's literally this weekend's plan, and of course it's going to be filmed. So yeah, we got crazy stuff always going on. So check it out, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank you for helping me out this week. You were amazing, and I look forward to seeing you both. And thank you for joining the podcast.
Of course. All right.
Thank you for joining the Coffin.
Bravo.
Bye. Thank you for joining the Coffin Lounge podcast. We are on episode 12. Please subscribe on Spotify. It's on iTunes and YouTube if you want to watch. Thank you again for joining me, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.